Reusse Unchained here. We got a couple basketball teams with the arrow pointing in different directions here.
Yes,
So how
right.
did you were you watching the game the Wolves comeback, the
Well,
historic comeback?
there's some cases when you don't really you kind of want to bluff it and pretend like you were fixated on the thing. But I got to tell you the other angle there. I watched a little bit of the the first quarter part of it, and it was a blowout. Then started watching something upstairs with the bride, right? So I'm watching it and said, I better check in, see how it's going. It's 102 to 80. So I just, forget it and keep watching what I'm watching. And all of a sudden, the next time I looked at my phone, it's tied like 121 apiece or something. And by the time I got downstairs to watch it, they'd already won the game and the greatest comeback. And this is, I don't care about statistically or anything, but you're playing OKC, the best team in the league. This is the greatest comeback in franchise history without a doubt, wouldn't you say it is? And it's
Shorthanded, yeah.
yeah, and then there is something that if you if you say that it's against a team that's won 80% of the games, this comeback has never occurred in the history of the NBA. But
Yep.
how many teams have won 80% of their games? That's a that's a different category. But it was incredible that this occurred, and of course, it's all a rumor to me. Now, I did do the old watch the good even though you can't have it gets blacked out in Minnesota, right? It was on TV, but it was black. Was that the one that was blacked out, or was the one of them was? I tried to watch it on regular YouTube, and it was you had to go and watch it on local, but. You can. I did get to see key plays later on after that, so it was unbelievable. What a
Yeah, it was. So they also lead the league in 15. I think I saw 15-point comebacks this season.
Mhm.
You,
Which what's amazing. Now I got to admit that I was listening to the rival Mr. Barrero at 3. When does he start? 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock on that day of that thing. I said I happened to be in the car, so I was listening, and he did a whole 10, 12 minutes on how terrible this team is in the clutch. And you know what I mean? The stats were saying what they were the worst team in the NBA, right? For when
yeah, they're right there in
in
most categories with like the Jazz and the Wizards for worst
Yes,
clutch
yeah.
time
Well,
teams.
I
Yeah.
think he read them off, and that they're in the bottom. The bottom five teams are the Wolves, and then the two worst teams in the East, and the two worst teams in the West, or something.
Yep.
But it did a whole thing about how horrible this team was in the clutch, and then, as is wont to happen, 180 degrees opposite occurred several hours, and so that's why we love it, though, as I always say. We always know what's going to happen until it doesn't, right? And that's why we follow sports. But incredible. And what are we going to do about Terrance now? We got to play. We got to. Everybody gets healthy. We still got to play Terrance 15, 16, 18 minutes,
Terrence
don't we?
is
And
an absolute force. And he
yes,
also grabbed 10 rebounds in that game
yes.
too.
Yes, and anybody who watched him in the Big Ten tournament here last year loved him, right? He got 34, 40, and 28 in the Big Ten tournament here. But the fact of the matter is, he's relentless going to the basket. He's just, Anthony kind of, darts and dots around. This guy, if you give him just a little bit of opening, he just puts his head down and gone. He's going to get two charging fouls, but it was amazing. And Clark, of course, has been a big asset too. And how about that? You can tell Clark's not a veteran, right, Judd? He fell down and hit his head, and he didn't take a game off the next way. He played the next
He'll
game. He
learn.
couldn't he couldn't wait to get back into the lineup. It would have been one of our wily veterans. He probably would have missed 4 games.
Yeah,
But
I think too, like one of the biggest revelations, and we've kind of touched on this. January 1st, for whatever reason, was a statistical turning point for Jaden McDaniels. But then there's another
yes,
level with Julius out and Rudy out the last few games, where all right, there's space for someone to come in here and get to the paint. That game against OKC, he scores 27 points, did
Yes,
not take a three-pointer the entire game.
yes.
That's him. He's not a stand in the corner guy and launch threes.
And I gotta admit, I didn't think it was even in there. I mean, you saw a 6'11" guy who's athletic, but I didn't know. I had no idea this was in there, that he could make shots, that he could be that aggressive getting to the basket, that he could, just say, okay, Ant, that's enough of this. I got to go do something myself here. And now Rudy not being around, has that helped him? Rudy not being clogging
Well,
up the middle, has that helped
their
him?
defense takes a huge hit because he when he's
Yeah,
on the court, they have like one of the 3 or 4 best defenses in the league still. But
yeah,
when he's not on the court, you also get to you play
yeah.
with more pace and spacing, and your defense suffers, but you're scoring a lot more points too.
It's funny. I used to always make fun of Hubie Brown doing games because Hubie made every basket sound like the assault on Leningrad or something. I mean, it was I said that the other day. And Hubie, every basket had all these elements, but at least at the NBA level, there are a lot of elements which goes into how a team's playing or not. Of course, starting with interest is one of it, but then yeah, it was phenomenal, and I sure wish I'd watched it.
What were you watching
I
instead?
don't know, some goofy movie. I don't know what it was, or some
I
good
was very
series or
close
something.
to checking out myself, so I really
Yes.
can't blame you. I
No.
didn't, but
Wow.
I almost did.
Well, I watched. They were down, and they're going to get
Yeah.
beaten. I was going to go back and watch the fourth quarter, which is what I usually do, and it was 102-80. I
Yeah.
said, "Well, there's no sense in watching this." Brett Robson, who there's nobody more proud of his basketball genius than Brett, and he had some tweet that people keep retweeting now that this is one of the rare times I'm turning off a Timberwolves game because
Brett, come
there's
back!
no chance.
Wake up, Brett!
Where are you, Brett? Yeah, it was.
We had another one of the prominent Wolves Twitter figures is Jake Painting. He lives in
Yeah.
Australia, howls and growls. He's
Mhm.
great. And he tweeted same thing. He tweeted, probably got to just take your one win against OKC and on the season to be happy with it. It says getting legit good reps for the young guys, etc. You got to leave games like this with some positives, and then he logged off for.
Didn't didn't you feel though? Now I did watch the overtime. I came down because it was tied, but didn't you feel that okay after this golden comeback they're going to get beaten overtime? Aren't they going to get
Oh
beaten
yeah.
overtime? Did you
Yeah.
feel like that? Because it's been that kind of year for them where they've taken more kicks in the shins than they've delivered. That's for sure, as far as bad losses and stuff like that. So I was, I once overtime started, it was like they're not going to win this. But hey, unbelievable win and
Yeah.
good coming at a good time because you're what 6 games in 9 days starting tonight, is it? Is that right?
Yeah, because you got a back-to-back tomorrow night against the Lakers, and then you go to Utah the following night, and Phoenix. Then you get a day off. It's 3 games in 4 nights on the road between Thursday and Sunday night, I guess. So yeah, it's gonna be tough.
Speaking of Lakers, bleep Donka, bleep Doncic, bleep Luca doing the stare down to the Dallas bench. And, I mean, Kyrie's his pal, supposedly. He went to war with Kyrie, he went to war with these guys. Now he's doing the stare down. What an idiot.
I think
You
he's
know?
staring down Jason Kidd, and then is it Nico Harrison? Is there
His
the people
teammates were
broke down the film? It wasn't about the teammates; it was the authority
Yeah,
figures.
the
but
Dallas
why?
players were
Why?
laughing
Why?
at.
What's the object of doing that? Why do that? For God, you get to
You
go to
guys
L.A.
think I'm fat and a lazy leader, and I'm gonna stick it to you with this triple double and
Yeah.
stare you down.
Meanwhile, LeBron was unbelievable against them last night. What was that? He was beating them down the court and dunking and going. It's he is all right. You young guys, you young guys. He broke in when 22 years ago, so
Oh
basically
three, right?
2003.
Yep.
Best American athlete since 2003.
since 2003.
That
American
includes
athlete.
Brady.
American
That
athlete.
includes Brady.
Brady.
I say, Brady.
Mahomes is in that conversation,
Well,
but
a little bit. I say LeBron because of the amount of games he's played, the fact he's, to me, the most impressive thing he did because he is such a sensitive egomaniac. He's a sensitive egomaniac, which is the worst kind. But that he, because they were mad at him in Cleveland, he had to go back to Cleveland, just to get him back on his side, and then he goes back and wins the title. So that's
yeah.
one of the great achievements in sports history that he went back and won a title. But it looked like he was cooked 2 years ago. And that last year he was really good, and right now he's playing like a monster. How can this be? What kind of
Well, that
let's
trade's going to
let's
help him a ton.
yeah, oh yeah. Let's get a urine sample too here. Let's see what the heck's going on. Come on. Of course, now I think
It
you can
is
take it.
crazy that he's 40 and looks this good still.
Yeah,
It is crazy.
and apparently he's gotten over the sadness of Bronny not playing a lot of minutes. He seems to be more satisfied with Luka playing a lot of minutes than Brownie, don't you? Bronny, don't you think?
Yeah.
I think so. But
Also, in the other terms of the older folks here that are propping up the NBA, the Warriors since the Jimmy Butler trade are awesome
oh
and
yeah,
climbing up the standings.
he and Steph are out there hugging and jumping around. Steph, he's gonna turn on you. He's gonna be an idiot. Don't worry about it.
I don't think it's going to happen this year though. I think
No,
they've got a run in them. They might make a run in the Western Conference. It's interesting now. And
they don't have
Draymond,
much.
they're all playing nice.
They don't have much size. Yeah, I saw Draymond on the sidelines when Butler made a play. He was just so happy he couldn't stand it. Has he had an incident this year,
I don't think
Draymond?
he's tried to choke anyone yet.
No, I
No,
don't
he
think
hasn't turned around and hauled off and punched anyone yet.
no. So
Good for him.
and Jimmy's got to be happier than that because he didn't think San Francisco was a possibility. So he said Phoenix was the only place he wanted to go. He could be down there in that mess.
He dodged
And
that bullet.
now he's with the playing with Steph and the fellas. And I tell you what, you might be coming off the greatest victory in franchise history, but it doesn't make the West any easier. Oof, man, it's tough. It is
Yeah.
brutal. You know, it was great. Memphis, when they're mean and nasty and play defense, and
They're big.
Josh staying out of jail, and they're good too. That's gonna be something with all these glamour franchises, the Lakers and the Warriors. If you end up having the Grizz and the OKCs in the Western Finals, the
You
NBA
could.
office will be going, how'd this happen?
You could, Pat. You could wind up legitimately having the final four teams in the NBA could include Oklahoma City, Memphis, Cleveland,
Yes.
and then maybe Boston's thrown in there as the
Now,
lone
the,
big
the
market.
East is part of it, I guess, because you play an extra game against each of the teams there. But Cleveland's got the best record in the league. Unbelievable.
Yep,
Yeah.
Cleveland. And by the way, the Pistons with Cade Cunningham,
Yes.
they've won 7 in a row. And that pick, the Wolves are going to get that pick. That pick is going to. The Pistons are the 6th seed right now in the Eastern Conference. So we are just as much
what
Pistons
is it
fans
with
here to get that pick.
protected top 10?
Top
was it?
13. Top 13.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you make the right choice, you might get another Terrance Shannon. I don't know. What do we need? What do we want here? I think we just want young guys to play more. Isn't that it? That's probably
Yeah,
all we
I think
want
that.
here because they have enough. I do have to admit though, I was on the Luca Garza get him 10 minutes bandwagon. It's okay to play him, but he's a step slow, and he's
Yeah,
not really much of a defender. So,
Yeah, it's
but
tough. He can knock down some shots. He can make
yes,
some shots, but that's.
but anyway, it's don't worry. By the time they get back from this road trip, we'll be down on them and up on them 3 different times here, right? It has been a crazy season. Meanwhile, we can all yep, we can all settle in. We can all settle in and say who's going to replace Ben. I think we don't. You
Are we
think
out now again?
I think we're out now.
We've gone from It's possible they can make the tournament. Oh,
yes, man, they were awful against
Northwestern, well, and Penn
not
State.
Penn State.
Northwestern. I know who did we lose
Penn
to?
State.
Penn State. They were awful against Penn State, but they just got outplayed and they couldn't make a shot. But last night they were awful from the get go, brutal, pathetic, and I I yeah, I didn't watch all of it. You couldn't see, I'm old. I don't have that strong a stomach anymore. I can't watch the whole damn thing. But nobody there either, right? It didn't sound like they're making any noise at all. So
Yeah, it's gonna be.
I
Who's
didn't
the
watch the
higher? Who's the higher?
remember when Craig Smith was kind of the guy we were kicking around to replace Patino? He got fired at Utah, which there had to be something. They beat Kansas last week, and they were 15-12. They weren't good, but he got fired out there. But I don't know who the type hire is. What do you think? I mean, you gotta do something dynamic, don't you? You can't. You
But are you
can't
going to get
just,
him any help? I'm not taking the
yeah,
job unless I get assurances of a ton of help.
yeah. That I'm gonna get $5 million or $8 million
NIL money.
or
Yeah,
something
I
to
need a
spend.
lot.
Yeah, they keep talking about this 21 million that each team's gonna get. Blah blah blah. Well, 80% of that, according to the suit, is going to football. So that
Yeah.
leaves, and then the others going to women's and men's basketball. So what's 80%? That's 17 million. You got 4.5 million left to spend. But who's that get you? That gets you, some backup. That you're gonna have to give us $1 million of that, aren't you, to bring him back?
You
Somebody
know,
was saying, how many of these guys are gonna transfer? Somebody said on Twitter. I said, not too many. They're all seniors with no eligibility left, so they're not gonna transfer.
I
Plus,
saw a
they're no
creative
good.
idea. Was it St. Thomas? Somebody on local Twitter put out that they were at I think it was a St. Thomas game or something, and they
Mhm.
ask you on every concession purchase if you want to round up, and the round up money goes to NIL.
Oh,
Creighton.
really?
And
Yeah.
Creighton, was it Creighton? Okay.
Creighton's doing it. Yeah.
So have we thought about that?
Yes, yes.
You're going to
Round
buy a
up.
hot dog and a soda, and that comes out to
Mhm.
$14.05. Do
Yeah,
you want to
round
send
up.
the 95-cent roundup to NIL? Let's
That's a
do
good
it.
idea. That's a good idea. That is a good idea. Now I don't know how I know one thing. The Chick-fil-A stand at the Gophers game does pretty well because they're always sold out at halftime. I went down there the two games I was at, and they're gone. They're gone at halftime.
We
Get
can't
more
increase the
Chick-fil,
supply.
get more Chick-fil-A's for goodness sakes.
And
What
then
are you
round
doing?
up.
Yeah, round up. Then I could have rounded up from 750 to 8 or whatever the hell they were charging for it, but they were out. I don't know. There's that was pathetic last night, and even the TV guys were having trouble biting their tongues last night. Did you guys watch? Did you watch
No.
much of it? Yeah,
I was at the Wild.
the TV guys. Yeah,
I
that,
did see that Ben Johnson was kind of pouring his heart out in the post-game press conference about how they tried to recreate the entire like pregame road vibe from the California games
oh,
against USC and UCLA, and they even he delivered like a similar post-game address and everything, and
if
I don't know, they just
if you
turtle inside that arena.
if you yeah, you want to here's what you should you know how you redo the UCLA vibe. You have the other team go 7 for 17 on free throws in what were they in the last 10 minutes or something
Mhm.
like that. That's how you recreate the vibe. Let's face it, those Southern Cal's no good. They're 6-10 or something in the conference, even with Eric there. And B, you played good against UCLA because you hung in there, but in the second half, but they handed you the game. So what we've seen here, the last two games at home, is much more what we got on our hands here. It's just a bad basketball team, and they're not going to squeeze in to the. Let's see.
Where are they at here? Let's
15
see.
and
Top
3.
15, and then
I'm trying to get the percentage of the teams that what's 3 of 18? That's 16.5%. We're going to be in the is it 16.5%?
Percentile. Yeah.
Yeah, percentile. Going to be in the bottom 16.5 percentile of the league. So yeah, it's just I don't think it's I despite all the headlines of we got to keep him and blah blah blah. I don't think he's going to stay. I don't.
I think I'm a St. Thomas fan now. I
oh
think
yeah, why
I
not?
graduated at the University of Minnesota,
Yes.
but like I thought about
yeah,
going to St. Thomas.
it's your Marquette now. It's your
It'll
small
be
Catholic
they
school.
get
It's
in that
good.
new arena. They get in that new arena and they're playing some teams you've heard of, conference games. They'll be drawing 5,000 a night there over there.
My
And,
next question is this: whoever gets the job with the Gophers, my first question is, will you
are you
play
gonna
St. Thomas? And if I'm
yes.
told no, you can walk right out that door.
And you know what you can do now with them having a 5,500 seat arena and they're sure to fill it? Home and home.
Yeah.
Why not? You know,
At least
instead of
one.
instead of play 60 or 70 or 80,000 to have Chicago State come to town.
And you can
or
round
something
up.
like-
You can
Yeah,
round up.
round up. Round up. We got
Talk
the
about the
Tommy's
roundup.
Tommy's 2-game losing streak though. They've fallen out of first place. Do
Time
we
for a change. That too.
Time for
have
a
the game?
coaching change. Yeah.
We have the
Time for a
game
change,
Thursday.
Pat.
Johnny Tower. Sorry, buddy.
We have the game Thursday night, right? Right here on the right here on 1500 a.m. So
They are 12-0 at home, St.
yes,
Thomas,
they haven't
the only
lost.
undefeated team in the Summit League.
So
far.
they're kind of sending out this thing to get sentimental about Schoenecker Arena. Well, it's the second Schoenecker Arena,
Yeah.
and the one to be sentimental about is the hot box that was upstairs on the third floor of O'Shaughnessy's, the athletic building, that was a cracker box, and they were in there from the 1930s through 1980. That was, and then they got the original Schoenecker, which and then they made it into a total field house later on that same site. They played 1 or 2 years at Gangelhoff at Concordia while they were building the new Schoenekers. But I have a hard, and they're not tearing it down. It's like volleyball's going to be there and stuff like that. So, but the
Yeah.
new arena will be fun.
Yeah, I mean, unless the Gophers still have like resources and everything, but it is not hard to imagine a world in
No.
which St. Thomas is the better program. If they, because once next year they can go to the NCAA, they're gonna have to win that conference tournament to get there,
Yes.
but they could go.
Yeah.
They could very well go to an NCAA tournament well before the Gophers' next trip.
That's that's true. Yeah, I mean they're gonna draw people. It's gonna be a fun arena. It's the right size. That's one thing. And now we're gonna. I told them they should have a barbecue for the neighbors. When they open the new place, the guys says, bring in your sign there and then you get a free pulled pork sandwich or something like that. If you bring in your say no, state that the neighbors who all fought against it because they're worried about traffic. So
Yeah.
the thing's damn near done. It's a little too late to. I don't think the city's going to come out and tell them they have to blow it up. So.
No, just walk across the street and go to the games and then go to bed afterwards. That's what people. So, all right, Pat. Well,
All right,
we'll get your full NFL Combine review, or I think the events are still going on throughout the weekend. So we'll get your full 3-cone breakdown on Friday.
You know what I'm discovering here, though, since this is the second time in 50 years I've not been at spring training. It's kind of boring when you're not when you're not down there. It's kind of boring what's going on, isn't it? I mean, who gives a damn? Really, it's because first of all they predetermine the whole team, right? So but it's kind of boring. I gotta admit,
It's
I'm not
definitely it's like a
fixated
it's more of a. It's more of
Yeah.
a selfish thing. You're down there like, oh man, we were watching batting practice on the backfield today,
Yes,
and
right.
it's like, it doesn't
Yes,
really
we
matter.
saw such and such. It doesn't really relate to news up here in the Twin Cities.
Yep.
All righty. See ya.
All right, there he is,
Bye.
Patrick Reusse, Reusse Unchained on Score North.